Hello students, this is a short video review for the midterm in Introduction to Business BUS 150. First, in Chapter 1, make sure you know what the terms business, sales revenue, and profit are. Also, you should know what an entrepreneur is. You should also know the term economics and the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. You should also know the different types of economic systems. That would be command economy, capitalism, and what we have here in the United States, a mixed economy. You should know what the invisible hand is. You also need to know the different types of competitive markets. Monopoly, a market with one supplier. Oligopoly, a market with only a few suppliers. Pure or perfect competition, a market with many suppliers and many buyers. And monopolistic competition, many suppliers and many buyers, but the suppliers try to differentiate themselves on something other than price. You also need to know the factors of production, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. You should know what the term GDP is, the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy. Again, this is a big chapter. See anything else? Those are the main things from this chapter, from chapter 1. Chapter 2 is a much shorter chapter. Chapter 2 is about ethics and social responsibility. First, you need to know what are ethics and what are business ethics. What is a conflict of interest? What is a whistleblower? What's the best way to help employees be ethical? With a code of conduct or a code of ethics. You should also know what affirmative action is. Affirmative action is a plan designed to increase the number of employees from underrepresented groups that we know were discriminated against in the past. You should know the two different views of social responsibility. The economic view that says you owe it to the owners and investors to increase their wealth, and the stakeholder view or socioeconomic view that says not only do you owe the owners, but also you have responsibilities to other stakeholders, including employees, customers, the community that you live in, etc. You should be familiar with Sarbanes-Oxley and the term green marketing. Those are the major things from Chapter 2. Again, it's not nearly as big as Chapter 1. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is short, but it's got a lot of important things in it. First, the economic basis for global business. You should know what an absolute advantage is and a comparative advantage. You should also know what is meant by the term balance of trade. The difference between a positive balance and a negative balance. If you export more than you import, you have a positive balance of trade. You should know what the term dumping means. Now, this is pretty easy. You should know the different methods for conducting global business: import-export, licensing and franchising, joint ventures and strategic alliances, and direct foreign investment. You need to know those methods, and you also need to know barriers to free trade. That would include tariffs, quotas, and embargoes. What are the organizations that try to facilitate free trade? You need to know what the WTO is, GATT, and when it comes to trade agreements, make sure you're familiar with the USMCA. The USMCA is the trade agreement that we're a part of that was formerly NAFTA. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the chapter on business ownership. You should know the three broad types of business ownership and the advantages and disadvantages of each. That's sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. You need to also know the difference between a general and a limited partner. General partners have unlimited liability and help manage the firm. Limited partners only invest money and have limited liability. They can only lose the money they invest, and they have no role in managing the firm. You should also know what is a partnership agreement. In terms of corporations, you should know how corporations come to be, meaning, and their governance. The stockholders elect the board of directors. The board of directors will then select the president and other top executives who will then hire the remaining employees. Make sure you also are familiar with special forms, specifically an LLC and an S corporation. Make sure you know what is meant by double taxation. Make sure you know what is meant by unlimited liability. And in terms of stock, the difference between preferred stock and common stock. How do you earn a return in the stock market? Through dividends and stock appreciation, meaning the price of the stock went up from the price that it was when you purchased it. Those are the major things you should know from Chapter 4. Chapter 5 is a shorter chapter. You should know what is a small business. For us, it's an independent, for-profit business not dominant in its field. You also need to know what is the SBA, Small Business Administration. Their purpose is to support small businesses in the United States. How do they do it? Well, you should be familiar with an SBDC, SCORE, what else? Business plans and SBIs. An SBI is basically a small business institute. You should also know that the SBA guarantees loans. but the loans are actually made by private entities like banks. Um, Also, what are the different ways to get startup capital? You should know what a venture capitalist is and an angel investor and how they are different. Chapter 6 is the last chapter that will be represented on the midterm. Pretty easy. You need to know what is management. Management is the process of achieving organizational objectives through the effective and efficient use of resources. You need to know what resources are: material, financial, etc. You need to know the different levels of management: top, middle, first line, or supervisor. You need to know the functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. You also need to know the skills that managers need: conceptual, communication, technical. And in this book, they add a couple of others: analytic, and I believe it's problem solving. You should also know the different types of leadership and what is leading, influencing others to work toward a goal. Different types of leadership: autocratic, participative, laissez-faire, etc. You should know the difference between them. One more thing, in terms of plans, the difference between strategic plans, tactical plans, operational plans, and contingency plans. You should also know what is a business plan and what are the major parts of it. What is a SWOT analysis and what is it used for? It's a planning tool to help a firm identify its internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats. If you know all those things that I've just given you, you should do well on the midterm. Remember, the most important thing is to be there and give it your best shot. Thank you, and I hope this helps.